Oh man. Uh, Hi everybody. I apologize. I'm a little bit out of sorts today. It's been a very long day. Yesterday I did a Facebook a live Q&A like this on the topic of it was a wife who caught her husband looking at pornography, and about an hour after I finished that, my wife blew out her back, and then I spent the next 15 hours in the hospital with her. I got about an hour or two of sleep last night, so I am not banging on all cylinders today. But I'm here, and I committed to be here, and I want to make sure that I take some time to answer this really important question that I hear really often. And the house is quiet, my wife is medicated and laying in bed, and so I feel like I have a little bit of bandwidth to sit down with you and chat. So I don't want that to like alarm anybody. We're okay. Everything's going to be fine. But just a little bit of context if I'm a little bit rusty today. So I want to kick things off by just covering three really quick announcements. First, if you're not subscribed to this channel, hit the subscribe button if you care about your marriage. If you want more videos like this, Q&A sessions or tutorials or tips and tricks to help make your relationship stronger, I don't think there's anything better you can do for your marriage today than to click the little subscribe button and get free resources on a regular basis to help make your marriage stronger. The second thing is I do love hearing from you during these chats. So if you're watching live, please leave a comment and let me know what you think, how this whole thing goes. And if you're watching the recording, feel free to drop a comment. So I'm rearranging my windows here on my screen, which is why I'm not looking at you directly. But if you're watching the recording, leave a comment and let me know what your favorite or least favorite parts of today's video were. And I always love hearing your feedback. And then the last thing is this Q&A is a very good example of what I do on a regular basis in the Epic Marriage Club. And so if you want more personal attention, if you want me to answer your question, and if you want a lot of other amazing additional resources, including access to the Epic Marriage Blueprint, which is something that I've been developing for the last couple of months, and I'm really excited to talk more about later on down the road, come check out the Epic Marriage Club. There's a link down in the description below. It's just epicmarriageclub.com. All right, that being said, those are my announcements today. I'm going to dive into today's question. The question for today is my wife does not seem to want sex, and she never initiates sex. I'm at a loss here. I work hard. I try to help her around the house. I flirt with her. She's okay snuggling or kissing, but the moment she feels things are not moving towards, or the things are moving towards sex, excuse me, she shuts down. She says that I don't give her enough space to initiate, so I back off, and then I wait and I wait and I wait, and then nothing ever happens. She feels sad, grumpy, or then I feel sad, grumpy, withdrawn, and rejected. When I bring this up to my wife, she gets frustrated, saying that I'm in charge of my own body, and if I want something, I should ask for it, initiate it myself. Having sex less than once a week isn't enough for me. I'm starting to feel resentful. I'm reluctant to initiate because I'm tired of facing the rejection. What do I do? So this is kind of a combination of multiple questions submitted from multiple, it seems, husbands who are frustrated with the lack of frequency of sex in their relationship, lack of initiation by their partner, and they want a fix. And I just want to preface this video by saying that there are no easy fixes. So there are things that we can do, and I'm going to definitely get into this. But there's not like some sort of magic elixir. There's no special script. There's no manipulation tactic. There's no trick that you can use. There's no miracle libido cure that is going to be like this easy plug and play. Oh, if you just empty the dishwasher, then your wife is going to want to have sex with you more often. Like that's not how it works. So what we're going to focus on today is not the quick tips and tricks. We're going to talk about specifically the things that you are responsible for, that you can have an impact over, and the things that you can do to maybe shift the dynamic in your relationship. Especially this destructive dynamic that is going on, that is making it so that probably neither of you are getting the type of sex that you want, or experiencing the type of pleasure that you would really enjoy in a married relationship. And the reason we focus on starting off with what you're responsible for and really only focusing on this is because that's how you get results. Like if you just sit around and wait and hope for your partner to change or try to manipulate them into changing, they're going to resent you. You're not going to see any results. Nothing, no dynamic in the relationship will shift, and then your results will just continue to be the same. So it's like just like you can't. If your partner is not in good shape, you can't eat a whole bunch of salads and do a whole bunch of push-ups and magically they will like lose weight and get in shape. That's not how it works. You all you can really do is focus on your own health and leave the door open for them to take responsibility for their actions as well. And if they don't, then there's choices to make. So today, what we're going to focus the majority of the conversation around is how to become more differentiated. If that's a new word for you, I'll describe what that means. If it's not a new word for you, I'm going to applaud you because this is a topic that I did not know about 10 years ago when I started down this journey of researching what it was that made epic marriages possible. And the more research I did and the more studying I did, the more I realized that being a highly differentiated person was one of, if not the most important characteristic in successful couples and couples who had deeply fulfilling, meaningful relationships. So what I mean when I say differentiated, differentiation has essentially two parts. It's a very complex concept, but if you were to distill it down into two parts, one part of differentiation is your ability to separate your thoughts from your feelings. So you can tell the difference between a feeling that you have, like maybe in this case, the feeling of rejection or not being wanted by your partner when they don't want to have sex with you, and then all the thoughts that follow that might amplify those feelings. The thought of maybe I'm not good enough, maybe she's having an affair, maybe she's asexual, maybe there's problems in the relationship, maybe they're like our brains can become a runaway train, and the thoughts that follow emotions, especially painful emotions, can be really destructive. And being able to separate the two and realize like, hey, these thoughts are not rational after you experience an uncomfortable feeling, that is something that a highly differentiated person can do. The second part of differentiation is you have the ability to hold on to yourself, or more specifically, to hold on to your thoughts and your emotions while being connected to another person along with their thoughts and emotions. So one of the things that makes us misbehave most in our relationships, or one of the things that makes our communication break down the most in our relationships, is when we get sucked in to our partner's emotions and thoughts. So maybe our partner is cranky, they're in a bad mood, and we take it personally. Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe they reject you and turn down a bid for connection or for intimacy, for sex, and it hurts. And they don't do it in a kind way. And then we get just in what's called enmeshed. Our emotions and our thoughts become all entangled, and it's hard to know where your nasty thoughts and emotions start and your partner's nasty thoughts and emotions end. And you just become kind of one messy ball of emotion together as a couple, emotion and negative thoughts. And so the ability to be in the presence of somebody, especially somebody that you love and that you want to be connected with, that you're like your partner, and have them experience negative thoughts and emotions, and you being able to not get sucked into that. That is something that a highly differentiated person can do. So we're going to talk about how to develop some differentiation and why that's important to help your partner desire sex more. So just stay with me for a minute, because I promise this will all make sense as we kind of pull on the loose thread here and unravel the sweater. So in most cases that I come across, including in this specific question, one of the things this person said is, I work hard, I try to help around the house, I flirt with her, I snuggle, I try to kiss her, I try to do, but anytime things move towards sex, she shuts down. And what I notice, and then later on he says that when this does happen, He feels sad, grumpy, withdrawn, and rejected. And so one of the things that I notice in situations like this is that oftentimes we rely on our partner to make us feel desirable, to make us feel sexy, to make us feel worthy, to make us feel manly or feminine, to make us feel they kind of own an aspect of our sexuality, of our sexual nature. And when we don't get what we want from them, when we don't get the validation, when we don't get the when they don't prop us up and reassure us and make us feel better about ourselves by giving us what we crave, what we need. Uh, um, like this person said that they need sex more than once a week. I've never come across somebody who was in a sexual emergency where they needed sex now or they were going to die. Something bad was going to happen. So I understand the desire to have sex on a more regular basis, but we'll dive into that a little bit in a minute here. But the idea here is when you become dependent on your partner for sexual validation and they don't give that to you, you start to behave in a way that makes you unattractive, and it creates a negative self-fulfilling prophecy that you're not going to get what you want. So if you desire sex and your partner rejects you, and what you do is you start pouting, you start sulking, you start getting passive aggressive and punishing your partner for not giving you what you want, you're turning into not even kind of, you're acting like a child. And nobody wants to have sex with a child if you're mentally and emotionally like well. You don't want to, like, you want to have sex with your partner. You want to have sex with somebody who's your equal, somebody who you respect. And if you can't respect a no and you pout, it makes you unattractive. And so taking into consideration, what are the things, how do you respond to a rejection? How do you respond to a no? And does that response make you more or less attractive to your partner? Does it make them want to pursue you down the road or not? Because there are ways that you can say no to your partner that make you more attractive. One of the I was watching a movie the other day, and this guy approached a woman at a bar and started hitting on her, and she totally shot him down. And I think it was it's the one with Steve Carell and Ryan Gosling. Crazy Stupid Love. So he approaches, I think it's Ryan Gosling approaches this woman. I think in the end, it's like Emma Stone, and she shoots him down, and he doesn't like sulk or get mad or insult her or get all upset and pout and storm away. He like lets the insult roll off his shoulder, and he just smiles as if it's like nothing happened. And over time, like especially the girl that she's with, starts to find Ryan Reynolds his character super attractive because he's not he doesn't, how do I put this? He doesn't get phased. He doesn't take the rejection personally. He kind of sees it as a bit of a game. And does he have the emotional resilience and the self-esteem, the self-respect to know that the rejection doesn't say anything about him as a person? It says more about the person who's saying no to him. And so that's kind of the mindset that you want to get into. And so one of the things that you can do to start helping yourself get into that mindset of behaving in a more attractive way and building attraction with your partner in the face of rejection is, one, really start working on your emotional integrity. Like start working on managing those negative emotions. Sit down and maybe journal for a minute and think about what are the emotions, what are the sensations in your body that come up when your partner rejects you, and what is a different way that you can respond when those sensations come up down the road. This requires some practice. It requires some mindfulness. It requires an immense amount of effort on your part. But as you learn to kind of master this aspect of your emotions, what happens is it's going to start building attraction. Once your partner realizes that you're no longer going to pout and sulk and withdraw and become passive aggressive when you get a no, it makes them a little bit more intrigued. It makes them more interested, and it makes them more willing to be honest with you in the future, which is a big win. Some other things that you can do: start working on yourself. Exercise regularly, work out, get strong, like build some muscles. Do things that make you feel confident and good about yourself, so that the self-respect that you have isn't fraudulent, that it's something that you've earned. and you've given to yourself by how you treat yourself. Eating healthy, another great thing to do. Socializing, have friends outside of your marriage, male friends, maybe even female friends. Obviously have a conversation with your partner and respect the boundaries of the relationship, but have hobbies, have interests, have something to do outside the relationship. It's research shows that I'm trying to remember I heard this quoted by Esther Perel, but she was quoting somebody else the other day. But she basically said that one of the best things that you can do to build attraction in your relationship is to do new things, to be interesting, to get out and experience things that you've never experienced before as an individual and as a couple. And so doing those things are going to make you a little bit more interesting. Number one, though, is make sure that you're not pouting. That is one aspect of being a more differentiated person. How can I take ownership of my emotions? How can I take ownership of my experience and behave in a way that is in alignment with the ideal version of myself, the very best version of myself? If I were to behave at my very best and embody the most virtuous of values that are my core values that I hold most dear, how would I show up in this moment of rejection? And start practicing that. Another thing to take into consideration is the way that you initiate sex. And this falls into the differentiation conversation as well. I think a lot of people, we talked a little bit earlier about how oftentimes we use our desire for sex or the fact that we can get sex from our partner as some sort of like validation or affirmation or kind of a way to prop ourselves up and make us feel good about ourselves. And our partners can sense this. Like they know when the sex that you are initiating is more about you getting something out of it than you sharing something with them. And if your partner starts to feel like the reason that you're initiating sex is so that you can get something from them, and this goes for men and for women, your partner's going to become less and less willing over time to engage in sex because it's transactional. The idea here is like you're not having sex with them because you love them or because you desire them. You're having sex with them mostly because it makes you feel good about yourself. And if there's any ounce of that in your relationship over time, it will get sniffed out. Your partner will find it, and they're not going to be excited. Like if you there's somebody in your life who the only contribution, it wouldn't be called a contribution, if their presence in your life is always a taking presence and never a giving presence, the likelihood of you remaining in relationship with that person goes down over time because it's exhausting to feel like every time you hang out with somebody, you have to maybe reassure them that they're a good person or that they're attractive or that they're smart or they're funny or that you care about their friendship, that you have to prop up their self-esteem, make them feel good about themselves, reaffirm them, have that same conversation every time you see them about making them feel good about themselves. It's exhausting. It takes a lot out of you, and over time I think people get sick of that drain. And so if that's the experience that your partner is having when you initiate sex with them, I think it's easy to kind of take the moral high ground on this one and kind of get into a grandiose position thinking you're better than your partner because you're the one who's initiating, you're the one who's taking the initiative, you're the one who's who's taking action and making your sex life happen. And if you didn't do it, your sex life would be non-existent. Like it's easy to take this one-up position and consider yourself to be morally superior. But if the reason that you're initiating sex is to feel good about yourself and to take from your partner, that is not a morally superior position to be in. And putting yourself in a one-up position is bad enough, but putting yourself in a one-up position while doing something that's destructive to your relationship and thinking that you're better than your partner while kind of taking from your partner and not contributing in a meaningful way to the relationship is like a double negative. It has a compounding negative effect on your relationship. So that's something to be aware of as well. There's a concept that in the book No More Mr. Nice Guy by Robert Glover, he talks about covert contracts. A covert contract is a contract that you make in your mind with your partner without like actually sharing the details of that contract. And men, well, people in general, but men are notorious for making covert contracts about sex and physical intimacy. There's this idea that this is mentioned in the question above, like if I'm a great provider, if I help around the house, if I help with the kids, if I'm a good listener, if I do the dishes, if I vacuum the floor, then you owe me sex. If I'm a good partner and I initiate sex and do all these other things, then you're supposed to want it. And if you don't want it, there's something wrong with you, because I'm doing all the things that everybody says that you're supposed to do. And this covert contract doesn't work because, once again, it puts your partner in, especially if you haven't expressed the terms of this contract, it's a form of manipulation. It's a form of entitlement. It's a form of selfishness, and that never makes your relationship better. And so, one, get clear on whether or not you have these covert contracts going on in your brain and in your relationship. Are there things that you expect from your partner in exchange for your good behavior that you have not expressly had a conversation about? And if that's the case, you need to have a conversation about it. That's really important. And so yeah, that's one thing to really take into consideration is, in what ways are you manipulating your partner or not communicating clearly what your expectations are. The the second thing to take into consideration is that these ideas of it's really easy to take the idea of differentiation and turn it into a covert contract. So this idea of, if I start differentiating myself, if I start holding on to my emotions, if I start differentiating between my thoughts and my emotions, and I can be present in an emotional outburst with you and not like be sucked into kind of the gravitational emotional field of your negative emotions, then it's going to make me more attractive and you're going to want sex with me. You can't use differentiation as a covert contract. This is not a manipulation technique. It's not like a script or a strategy. Like I said earlier, it's not a shortcut. These things that I'm talking about have to become part of your character. Like this idea of, I clean up around the house and I put the kids to bed and I listen to you talk to me about your feelings. Like, those strategies don't work if they're being used as a way to covertly get sex. They work when they become a part of who you are as a person, because that's the type of partner you want to be. So are you helping to put the kids to bed, or helping to clean the house, or listening to your partner's emotions? Are you giving them back scratches and hugs and kisses and writing them love notes because that's the type of partner you want to be, and that's how you want to show up in your relationship, and that's who you are at your core? And you're doing it out of a place that comes from no expectation, no ulterior motives. You're not giving to get. Or is it the opposite? Is there kind of like a hidden agenda here? And when you get clear around when you can make these things part of your character, that's when you start to have a really big breakthrough. There's two other things I want to talk about that I think will be helpful. One is, as you start differentiating yourself, one of the things that you can do that I think will make a big difference is stop demanding or settling for pity sex or duty sex. So one of the things about duty sex, or pity, we'll just call it duty sex so I don't keep repeating myself, is that it doesn't make either of you feel good. It might make you feel good in the moment to get sex from your partner. An orgasm really feels nice. But there's always that thing in the back of your mind that goes, so did I get this because she really wanted it? Or did we have this experience? Did we have sex because she wanted it, or because she just wanted to placate me? Did we have sex because she was really into it, or she just wanted to get me off her back and make me stop pouting? And when you start to question whether or not it was sincere, it kind of exacerbates or irritates that need or desire that you have to get validation from your partner. It makes it worse. So then you go try and manipulate your partner into sex again, and they give you duty sex, and it feels good in the moment. And then you start asking yourself that same question again. Well, where did that come from? Was it because I kind of coerced my partner into it, or is it because they really wanted it? And so, and not only that, but like duty sex is rarely good sex. It's rarely connecting. It's rarely like great, mind-blowing wall socket sex, as David Schnarch says. Most of the time, it's just meh. It's okay. Like maybe you get the orgasm, but it's not fulfilling. It's not satisfying. And so when you stop settling for sex that you both don't that your partner doesn't want and that you don't want, and you stop giving sex out of obligation or duty, you're going to do yourself a great service in the long run. And this is going to require you to develop some anxiety management. You're going to have to be able to say no in a very polite and dignified way, allowing your partner to have some dignity. But if your partner, if you feel like they're giving you sex to placate you or to make you feel good about yourself or to get you off their back, it's a great time to have a conversation and be like, hey, as much as I would love an orgasm right now, I don't want duty sex. I want you to want this. And if now's not a good time, then we can shoot for another time. And once again, that's that. If you're initiating the rejection of yourself and you're doing it in a confident, calm, collected, differentiated way, it builds self-respect and it builds integrity, and those things are attractive. And over time, it's not a guarantee, but this is the best path forward to help you develop a solid sense of self, to not become dependent on your partner for sexual validation, for emotional reinforcement, for them to prop you up. You become your own person, and whether or not that builds attraction with your partner, it makes you a more attractive person in general. And this is the growing up process that is required for a marriage to survive. This differentiation is essentially emotional puberty. It's going through emotional puberty. You're learning to become an adult, which is, there's no better way to do that. There's no circumstance that will give you more of an opportunity to grow up in this way than a relationship. And most people run away from it. Most people think, well, if our libidos don't match, or if I can't get the sex that I want, and I live in a sexless marriage, then that's just, there's no hope for our relationship, and it's better we just part ways. And that's definitely a strategy you can consider. But ultimately, what I've seen in my experience personally, and with people that I work with and in groups that I'm in online, is that when you take this differentiation approach, it's a more difficult road. It forces you to confront things in yourself that it would be more pleasant to just ignore and pretend they didn't exist. But if you confront them head on and you move towards them and you start to grow up and you start to differentiate and separate those thoughts from your emotions, and separate your own emotions and thoughts from your partner's emotions and thoughts, and be a little bit more calm and stable and able to stand up for yourself, and you start to develop some dignity and self-respect, what often happens is that it reignites that spark that you had at the beginning of the relationship. It makes you more mysterious, more attractive, more interesting, and less, more like a partner and less like a child. And that's a very attractive thing. And the last thing I want to talk about before we sign off is I want to talk about the importance of understanding how desire works for people. So I will link, I don't think I have a link there right now, but I will link after I wrap this call up, or this little video up down in the comments, a worksheet developed by Emily Nagoski that's about finding sexy contexts. And let me explain what that means. So Emily Nagoski wrote this amazing book called Come As You Are. If you haven't read it, it's amazing. She's wonderful. And the concepts she teaches in that book are, they should be mandatory reading for every person who engages in a sexual relationship, period. And one of the things that she teaches in that book is that desire, the drive of desire in the human experience, is what's called a dual control model, which basically means there's two inputs. There's two ways to control it. And the best and most simple way to explain it is it operates like a car. You've got a gas pedal, which revs up your sexual engine, and you've got a brake pedal, which brings everything to a screeching halt. And as you discover your gas pedals and your brake pedals, you can really start to not only understand how desire works for you personally, like what's going to rev up your engine, what's going to make you slam on those brakes, but you can also learn more about your partner. And if your partner's not in the mood a lot, it could be that they have their feet just like slammed down on the brakes, and they maybe haven't even lifted them up or known how to lift them up or even known that their foot was on the brakes since this all started. And so I want to walk through, a little bit about how you can better understand your own personal sexual accelerator and brake pedal. And I'm just going to walk through a couple of different things to consider. So Each one of these topics that I'm going to cover could be both gas pedals or brake pedals. So some things that you can consider are your mental and physical well-being. So if you are physically unhealthy, if you feel gross, if you don't feel confident in your body, if you're feeling sick, if you're going through like cancer treatments, my wife just blew out her back, like your physical health is directly tied to your your ability to experience sexual desire. And so if your partner is experiencing a lot of negative physical side effects, that could be a big brake pedal for them. If they're happy and feeling good in their body and healthy, it could be a really great gas pedal. Their mood, you can see how this is going to work. Whether or not they have anxiety, if they're high in anxiety, it could really kill their libido, their desire for sex. Whereas there's a portion of the population, a smaller portion, where when they have high anxiety, they love having sex. It's a great outlet for them. It's a way to self-soothe, and that's something to consider. Your body image, your mood, your distractibility, your worry about sexual functioning. Like some people feel very confident in their ability to perform sexually, and that's never even a second. They never even give a second thought to that. But there's some people who are constantly thinking, what if things don't work like they should? Like what if I don't lubricate? What if I don't get an erection? What if I finish too quickly? What if I can't get my partner to orgasm? What if I like fart during sex or make a weird noise or make a weird face during orgasm? Like there's all these things that people worry about when it comes to sexual performance that can positively or often negatively impact the experience for them, their desire to have sex in the future. The next subject after mental, so the first one was mental and physical well-being. So if you start thinking about that, you can get this worksheet and go through and like write down what are your gas pedals and your brake pedals. You could have gas pedals and brake pedals with regard to your partner's characteristics. So their appearance, if your partner's taking really good care of themselves, if they're putting on cologne, like smells can be a really something that builds attraction. Your partner's mental state, if they're happy and they're in a really good mood, they're not feeling cranky. If they're going to the gym and they're feeling good about their body, those are all things that can be a gas pedal for you. As opposed to if your partner is not taking care of themselves, maybe they haven't been brushing their teeth. Maybe they haven't showered in a couple of days. Maybe they stink. Maybe they have been really depressed and cranky or critical of you lately. And all of those things could be brake pedals. Moving on, the characteristics of the relationship. Has there been a breach of trust? If you have really strong trust, there might be really high desire for sex. If there's a huge breach of trust or there's been a lack of trust for a long time, maybe there's not so much of a desire for sex. Are there imbalanced power dynamics? Does your partner feel like they're being taken advantage of in some way? There's an imbalance of power. That could be a brake pedal. Your emotional connection. Do you have emotional connection? Are you willing to open up and talk about what you're thinking and feeling? If your partner feels like a stranger to you or you feel like a stranger to your partner, maybe you're going to be less likely to want sex, to experience desire. Do you feel desired? Is sex like lights out? We don't really look at each other, touch each other, missionary position, eyes closed? Or is there an element of sensuality and desire and like wanting the other person? Or are you using each other as essentially glorified sex toys just to get yourself to orgasm? How often are you having sex? That can definitely impact your desire for sex as well. Too much frequency, not enough frequency. If you're not having those conversations and talking about what would make it pleasurable for you both, that could be a problem. And on the flip side, you could go through each one of these things and talk about what would be a gas pedal. The setting is something that you can talk about. I know a lot of people don't want to have sex if they think their kids could hear or if they don't have a lock on the door. Some people are actually really excited by having sex in a place that they might get caught or in a setting that somebody might stumble onto them. Like the taboo nature of it, like increases the excitement of it. Maybe some people are really good at having sex on vacation because they don't have worries, they don't have stresses, they're in a separate room. It's just a better atmosphere for them, a better setting for them, as opposed to having it at home where there's just a lot of stress or maybe a lot of mess and a lot of other problems with the environment. the medium through which you have sex. Are you doing it in person? Are you doing it via text or over the phone? Are those things that you're comfortable with or uncomfortable with? That they create more desire or less desire? Seeing your partner do something really cool and maybe they're taking care of a child, or they get a big win at work, or they help out a neighbor or a family member, and that could build attraction. Or maybe they do something that's the opposite, a big failure, or they do something that disappoints you, and that can affect your attraction for them and their desire for them. So there's so many little things that can impact whether or not you're revving the gas pedal or hitting the brake pedal. And as you go through this worksheet, I went through pretty much every point on the worksheet, but just to give you an idea of all of the different factors that can play into whether or not you or your partner is experiencing desire. And as you go through this worksheet, it can help you build a bit of empathy and understanding towards, maybe where your partner is hitting the brakes. Emily Nagoski talks about a lot in her book about how a lot of people, when they learn this concept of the gas pedal and the brake pedal, they think, oh, great, I just need to put more pressure on the gas pedal. But that is not how it works. If you want to have a big impact on your ability or your partner's ability to experience more desire, the most important thing that you can do and the most impactful thing you can do is help them take their foot off the brake pedal. Investigate the ways in which their foot is on the brakes, the things that keep them from experiencing desire, and try and figure out a plan or a strategy to help them take their foot off the brakes. And I think you're going to be really pleased with the results if you do that. So we talked a little bit about differentiation. We talked a little bit about the concept of desire and how that works. And my hope is that there's something in here that can help you maybe flip that light switch a little bit and understand why the dynamic in your relationship, the sexual dynamic, is not banging on all cylinders, pun intended in that case. What are some things that you can take responsibility for? What are some things that you can change? What are some things that you can do to create an atmosphere or a dynamic or a setting in which your partner would be more interested in sex with you? Whether that means growing up, whether that means learning to manage your emotions better, whether that means examining yourself for covert contracts and developing more personal integrity, whether that means stop settling for duty sex, whether that means exploring gas pedals and brake pedals, sexual gas pedals and sexual brake pedals. All of those things can contribute in a really meaningful way to helping you hopefully overcome this hurdle, because nobody wants to be stuck in a sexless marriage. When we got married, I think we all knew inherently that marriage was it's like a sexual contract. The idea in monogamy is, I'm going to have sex with one person and that person is you. And too often I see people holding each other's sexual nature, their sexual health, they're holding it hostage and saying, you can only experience pleasure and sex if I allow you to do it and under these specific settings, and we don't have conversations about it. And I'm hoping that this little video can help you maybe sort some of those issues out and explore in a more meaningful way how you can both experience more pleasure, more connection, more fulfilling sex. And if you enjoyed any of what I shared, once again, I would love to hear from you. And if you want more videos like this, hit that subscribe button. I'd love to have you join the Growth Marriage family. Okay, have an amazing rest of your day, and go get sexy.